This is about Democrats wanting to fund Obamacare so much that they are willing to shut down the government. Obama outspent Romney by 10-1. Those are startling statistics, and the GOP, my party, needs to wake up. And you couple that with this Obama economy where 9 million jobs have vanished in 5 years. Tamara, just because you're allowed to do something, that doesn't make it right.
Yes,
you didn't want a terrorist attack on his watch, so he called it workplace violence. Everyone knows this was terrorism. Everyone. Colleges are bastions of liberalism, and it's not going to change unless Obama calls out, his buddies. The disapproval of Obama came right around those scandals, the IRS scandal, the NSA scandal. Democrats forced 30 cloture votes when President Bush was in power, filibustered many of his nominees, and all of a sudden, they're screaming about this rule that they themselves used in a legitimate fashion. After 9/11, the people who died in the Pentagon got a Purple Heart, and that did not have any effect on Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's trial. So I think that's not necessarily a great argument for denying our heroes what they deserve, these Purple Hearts. The fundamental problem is Democrats are framing the debate, and voters do not think Republicans are in touch with them. So that will be up to the Republican nominee to reach out to them, to empathize with them, to connect with them in the way that Ronald Reagan did. Ronald Reagan won women by 2% the first time around and 12% the second time. So it's that fundamental connection of we're in touch with you, we care about you, we care about your husband having a job, we care about millennials affording college. I don't hold out much hope for this UN body. They couldn't even run an oil for food program without mass corruption and inefficiency. So I hardly think that they can stop an asteroid. That being, it's very sad that right now 35, 36 presidents of college universities make more than $1 million, Stuart. $1 million. I have the fact that James Holmes said I am the Joker from Dark Knight Rising.
That's
he thought he was the
crazy.
Joker.
That doesn't mean that it's a contributing factor to people's violent behavior.
He dyed his hair orange to be the Joker.
Because he was crazy.
And authorities came out and said, point blank, Adam Lanza was motivated by video games. He was motivated. He was acting out a real-life fantasy.
By the way, Kayleigh, every Christian kid you're worried about, they have seen porn on the internet and can see it any time
of day. Does it make it right? Is the status quo an excuse to not make change? Because that's essentially what you're saying.
You're
that
right.
the status quo is an excuse to not make a more idealistic, better world that we want to work towards.
You want to go more...
I want to get back to the Cosby days.
Well,
and I think Jason does too, and Margaret does too. Let's get back to the Cosby days and out of the status quo.
It's not going to happen.
The status quo is not right.
Why do you want to get back?
But you see, it's not happening because we have people like you saying it's not going to happen.
You're the reason.
It's Donnie. It's all Donnie.
No. What I'm saying is the interesting thing is that
This is more than just about the economy. It's a definitive change in attitude. My parents' generation, it was unacceptable to live in your parents' basement. If you couldn't find work, you made work. If you couldn't make work, you took a job outside of your industry. But my generation has become a generation of dependence. If you can't find the job you want, the perfect job, you sit in your parents' basement eating Cheetos and crying with the Bachelorette. It's unacceptable, and it's a definite change in attitude. And 80% of people can't go 24 hours without looking at their Facebook. Obama knew that, and he took advantage of it. His campaign was so targeted and so zeroed in with Facebook. Television used to be about family. We all remember The Cosby Show. That was television. But now it's not just anti-family, it's hostile to my values.
They're going to a re-engagement facility, which Charles Payne seems quite excited to go to. We're going to relegate Charles Payne off to be re-engaged as well.
That sounds like a sign.
Women are smarter than that. They're not just gender issue voters. They want jobs. They care. Does my husband have a job? Is my Social Security going to be there? Had a 7-week high in viewership. He's beating Letterman. He's beating Kimmel. He will succeed. He will come out on top in this. And I think it's time for them to show a little loyalty. We managed in the 80s. We managed in the 90s. We managed after World War II. We can manage now with a $15 billion increase in spending. I always say things in the green room, apparently.
Yes.
But it's our favorite time of the day, bonus points. Who on the panel made the best point? I give Donnie kudos for reaching across the aisle and saying that these victims of Fort Hood deserve Purple Hearts, because they absolutely do. And good for you for recognizing that. And I look forward to our protest in front of the White House.
There you go.
I pat him on the back. We're pulling him the right word.
The real people who need to be punished are the parents here. Because I can tell you this, when a parent does their job, a kid doesn't do what I saw on that tape.
Verified. I'm a baby.
We had to verify that.
Adding to what Matt said, I mean, this guy said he wants George Bush to die. He said he wants to send Margaret Thatcher to the guillotine, so at least we don't have to claim him on the conservative side. This has been ignored because the focus has been on guns. Television used to be about family. We all remember The Cosby Show. That was television. But now it's not just anti-family, it's hostile to my values as a conservative Christian. It's hostile. My kids, I imagine 5 years from now when I have kids, they're not going to be able to even watch. And
Wait,
that's
The
sad.
Office is hostile?
Sad state of America.
The Office is Modern
Family
so
Guy is hostile.
Turn it off.
If this really was the doomsday scenario that the president would have us believe it was, he has an option to get out of it. And that option is to reduce spending elsewhere, to come to the middle, to work with the GOP.
You would never entertain revenues then?
Absolutely not.
Because you argue what? They were entertained last time.
They were entertained last time. There was a tax increase on 77% of Americans.
So no more.
No.
Neil, just look at the facts. 10 of the 11 closest Senate races, the winner was on social media, spending more on social media. And the Republicans are so far behind. In 2012, they spent just 3% on social media and new media. And Obama outspent Romney by 10-1. Those are startling statistics, and the GOP, my party, needs to wake up and realize winning an election in 2016 is not the same as winning an election in 2004.
But I think we can agree on the fact that this is not settled, and this should be by no means be used as a justification for holding up 20,000 jobs that could be created. We're holding up 20,000 jobs that could be created at the Keystone Pipeline, but we're holding that up for disputed science. Two out of the three of us on this panel seem to agree that global warming isn't happening, or if it is happening, it's not as catastrophic as what they're saying. So we hold up economic progress for the sake of unsettled science.
Here's a counterpoint to what you're saying. After 9/11, the people who died in the Pentagon got a Purple Heart, and that did not have any effect on Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's trial. So I think that's not necessarily a great argument for this, for denying our heroes what they deserve, these Purple Hearts. And, you know, to another point, Donnie, your liberal president is the one who started this all by refusing. I didn't
know I was responsible for putting him in office.
Yes, you didn't want a terrorist attack on his watch, so he called it workplace violence. Everyone knows this was terrorism. Everyone.
He called it because he's trying to get this guy convicted. What do you want, Kayleigh? Do you want him convicted, or do you want these people to get their Purple Hearts 2 years early?
But is KSM not going to get convicted because we gave Purple Hearts to those in the Pentagon?
No, I'm talking about this trial.
But this is the same situation.
I mean, it's called a free market. That's why you have a choice. You can choose the celery, you can choose the tricks are for kids, and I'm going to choose the tricks, and you can't lambast me for it, and I'm sick of these stories.
They care about the social issues, but I would argue there's a libertarian bent to my generation. They care about the social issues, but they also care about a free market. They care about transparency. We saw how they coalesced around someone like Ron Paul. There's a libertarian bent, and I think we're seeing that come out now that there are no jobs, the jobs that they were promised.
Has the spying...
You know, if you look at exit polls after the 2012 election, it's very, very interesting, Stuart, because issue by issues, Republicans won. Mitt Romney, voters believed he could better handle the economy. They believed he could better handle the debt, but yet they still voted for Obama. And the reason for that is there was a divergent number where 53 to 43% thought Obama was more in touch with them.
Give them nothing. I would cut it all together. Since when is government a mechanism to give you everything your heart desires? I mean, come on.
The answer is always more funding, more loans. The answer is never to reduce the cost of college. And the reason is because Obama is trying to protect his liberal buddies in academia. Then aren't we putting the interests of Nidal Hassan above the interests of our brave men and women?
No, we're putting the interests
of a hero because he's giving his life for his country.
Yes.
Donnie, will you work with me, bring the two sides together? Let's have a protest in front of the White House to get this done. Can we do that?
We'll go. We'll go this weekend, okay?
Bipartisan protest. Me and Donnie.
Hands across the
I think Obama blew it for a different reason than I think you think Obama blew it. He blew it by focusing on guns rather than the real issue that could have stopped some of these shootings, which is mental health. You look at Jared Loughner, and I have right here timeline of his mental health, and it's frightening, some of the things you read. Psychologist said she saw signs of schizophrenia. A classmate.
It's not either or, though.
It's always going to be nutbags.
But we have a classmate of his wrote, "You will see this guy on the news with an automatic weapon," and then he shoots 19 people and 6 die. But this has been ignored because the focus has been on guns.
By the way, no, but
it's been politicized.
It's not. It's not. It's all.
Is this higher inflation? Is this higher prices? That's forcing companies, forcing airlines to raise the fees?
You know, the feminists of the third wave want women to believe you cannot be female if you only want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I just think that's incorrect.
You know, I want to point out what this means for Obama. 2000, that election, 537 votes is what it came down to. And, you know, this time around, 537 college students stay home, play beer pong. If it's that close, as close as it was in 2000, he's in trouble.
Millennials were sold a bill of goods. They were told this would be the most transparent administration ever. What a joke now. They were told that he would bring back the economy, he would reduce the debt. None of that's happened. The debt's skyrocketing. There are no jobs. 16.1% unemployment among people in my generation. That's the highest of any group since World War II.
Kayleigh, you asked why we're talking about Seamus the dog at all, that voters aren't going to care about that on Election Day. First of all, I know you don't mean us, Red Eye.
Yes, no, not us, Red Eye. Okay. We always care about animals.
Absolutely.
And I care about animals. I just don't think this should be an issue.
Sure.
You know, a lot of this is so new. iPads are so new. It takes years to do a study with children to see how it truly affects them. I mean, is this something we're going to find out 5 years from now?
Yeah, they're actually doing.
Hey, Kayleigh, would you go to one of these things?
Oh, yeah. The monkey bars hanging upside down would be fun. But they don't have slides, so that was a little disturbing to me. But these health experts, I like slides, okay? I could never swing as a little kid, so it was all about the
well,
slides.
who could? I mean,
the underlying problem behind the 16.1% unemployment is the long-term effects that it will have. You look at, for instance, Japan back in the 1990s. They had a period of long-term youth unemployment, and that generation of individuals was scarred from there on out. You know, isn't that the great irony of liberalism? The liberals aren't liberal, and I think everyone at this table has and can speak to that. And, you know, I wrote one article, and I was called Ignorant Prude, a Worn-Out Hag, a Piece of Garbage, and Undeserving of Life. So that is the tolerant liberal mentality that you get if they disagree with you. And I imagine your perspective on this changes if you have a daughter in need of a heart transplant, and you know, all of a sudden something that seemed very bad doesn't seem so bad.
Right. But, or if you need some Vegas money, you know what I'm saying?
If you need some Vegas money. But a big part of this story is that it's already happening, and it's happening in the black market. The fact that Andrew Cuomo would placate his leftist, liberal Hollywood donors for the 2016 presidential race at the expense of potentially American lives is disconcerting to me.
Perfect.
Am I hearing Donnie advocate a right-wing policy over there?
No, it really is. I've been morphing in this show.
You have been. I like it.
Into the right.
We have to get to the lowest common denominator here, which is the teachers' unions that protect some of these guys who get to these high ranks among teachers that don't deserve it. We're not rewarding the teachers who are good at their job.
That's why you need the grading
because
system.
The union is protecting the teachers who are doing a horrific job. So that to me is the root of the problem. And I think the protesters should take a break from protesting, go home, look up some information, and they'll quickly find that the science on this is by no means settled. 31,000 scientists have signed a public petition saying that catastrophic climate change isn't happening.
Kayleigh, are women crazy? Why do some go for some really bad men who are bad for them?
I can tell you why this one did. It screams reality television. Come on, think about this. She doesn't have to sleep with the guy. She doesn't have to live with the guy. She can just write a book about it, create her own reality television show, and then she'll be competing against Casey Anthony for better ratings.
Interesting point, man.
I think something that's really been missed in this whole discussion is that we have both Democratic and Republican pundits talking about how this is going to affect the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, but the fact is having guys like Weiner around hurts America. Corruption damages the system. It delegitimizes the greatest system on earth, which our founding fathers put in place, and it's a shame. It's reprehensible, and I'm glad he's gone. You know, you look at global temperatures over the last 15 years, the UK Met Office says, no, the temperatures have leveled. The science is not settled, so let's stop the liberal hysteria, take a break from the protesting, go get some hot cocoa, sit inside. Academia, schools, education, it's about questioning, it's about the free flow of knowledge, and this teacher gave the students the conclusion and says, now you guys go find the premise. It's supposed to be the opposite. Here's the premise, tell me what your conclusion is. But I mean, that's what's so wrong about this. And it's so right, and it helps NBC, but now it's time for NBC to help themselves and remain loyal to Leno. Leno had a 7-week high in viewership. He's beating Letterman. He's beating Kimmel. He will succeed. He will come out on top in this. And I think it's time for them to show a little loyalty, give him the benefit of the doubt, keep him in there. And, you know, I have a special place in my heart for Leno because he takes jabs at the right as well as the left. So I have a special place in my heart for him. And I think it's time NBC shows some loyalty. But Donnie, there's an exception to that statistic, and it's the United States of America, the greatest country on earth, where 73% of citizens profess Christianity as their belief. This is a country founded on Judeo-Christian values, and the majority adhere to those values. There's a minority like the professor last week who had his students write Jesus on a piece of paper, rip it up, step on it, stomp on it, and expelled the kid who did not participate in this exercise. There's a minority who wants to take under God out of the Pledge of Allegiance, but they're the minority. The majority showed up to watch the Bible.
Yeah, by the way,
ratings, which Kayleigh's saying they're 68% right now.
Yeah, 67%. And, you know, she's the most popular presidential candidate since George Washington. I mean, this woman seems to have it in the bag. But, Donnie, I want to challenge you in saying, you know, this is the curse of heightened expectations. She can only go down from here. Everyone's talking about President Hillary Clinton as if it's a foregone conclusion, but it's not. And if she falters just a bit, she goes down tremendously. So I think it's far from a foregone conclusion.
By the way,
President
in 2016 she'll be.
I've seen it firsthand being in college. I've seen kids laugh and say, I went to the doctor and convinced him I'm ADHD. These are Georgetown students, smart kids who got here. Some kids need it.
Because they want the pills?
Because they want the pills. You know, people, there's a big market for it. Kids would sell their ADD medicine to others. That's why there's a study, 30% at the University of Kentucky have used illegal stimulants because it makes you focus. You study.
According to Michael's people, he started using drugs. Do you think that's fair game?
No, and the mother's discrediting his legacy by doing that. I personally have a soft spot in my heart for Michael Jackson, like Margaret acknowledged, who doesn't. And by doing this and dredging up this history, it's just going to...
I'll say it's worse than that. I say it sickens me.
Yeah.
It sickens me. They have...
...fun with this. I mean, this guy was denied a childhood, and you could see that evidently in his adulthood. And I'm not convinced he did it, and let's, give him the benefit of the doubt. Donnie, I'm going to mimic Donnie and do one of these. And you're so spot on, because, it's not the degree. It's what you do alongside the degree. I majored in international politics. I'm sure it's somewhere on this list as people who are unemployed, but I had a passion, and I interned in the White House and interned on Capitol Hill. And that's what it's about, what you do alongside your degree, because interning's the key. That's the key to employment.
To both the women at the panel get my award for shaming the men and showing us that the stronger sex does not cheat. What's
it like to sit on a beanbag chair filled with ugly people? Kayleigh McEnany discusses her new book, 1,001 Uses for Ugly People. But first...